Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving deep into one of history's most fascinating land deals, the sale of Alaska from Russia to the United States in 1867. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Why on earth would Russia sell such a massive territory for what seems like a bargain basement price? $7.2 million in 1867 is roughly equivalent to $144 million today. A hefty sum, sure, but a pittance compared to Alaska's vast natural resources and strategic importance. Well, as with most things in history, the answer isn't so simple. It's a tale of economic woes, geopolitical maneuvering, and perhaps a dash of short-sightedness. So grab your Ushankas and your copies of War and Peace because we're about to unravel the intricate reasons behind Russia's decision to sell Alaska to the United States. To understand why Russia sold Alaska, we need to rewind the clock to the mid-19th century. Russia, like a student who just blew their entire paycheck on textbooks, found itself grappling with some serious financial difficulties. The Crimean War, which ended in 1856, had drained the empire's coffers and left its economy reeling. Alaska, despite its size and potential, wasn't exactly a cash cow for the Russian Empire. In fact, it was more like a distant relative who constantly needed bailing out. The cost of administering and defending this remote territory was a significant drain on Russia's already strained resources. See, governing Alaska was no walk in the park. It was geographically isolated from Russia's main territories, making communication and transportation a logistical nightmare. The harsh climate and challenging terrain further compounded these problems, driving up administrative costs. The fur trade, once a lucrative source of income from Alaska, had also declined by the mid-19th century. Overhunting had depleted valuable fur-bearing animal populations, diminishing the economic viability of Russian America. Faced with mounting debts and the prospect of further financial strain, the Russian government began to see Alaska as more of a liability than an asset. Selling it, they reasoned, could provide a much-needed cash infusion and alleviate some of their economic burdens. Imagine trying to hold on to a snowball at the beach on a scorching summer day. That's essentially what defending Alaska felt like for Russia. The vast distances involved made it incredibly difficult for Russia to effectively govern and protect the territory. Alaska was thousands of miles away from Russia's centers of power, separated by the vast expanse of Siberia and the icy waters of the Bering Sea. This geographical isolation made it a logistical nightmare to transport troops, supplies, and communication to and from the region. Adding to Russia's anxieties was the growing naval power of Great Britain, its arch-rival at the time. The British had a strong presence in the Pacific, particularly in neighboring Canada, and Russia feared that they might have designs on Alaska. The Crimean War had exposed the weaknesses of Russia's military, making it clear that they were ill-prepared for a potential conflict with a major power like Great Britain so far from home. Defending Alaska in the event of such a war seemed like a losing proposition. Rather than risk losing Alaska in a potential conflict without any compensation, Russia saw a strategic advantage in selling it to the United States. The Americans, eager to expand their influence and wary of British power in North America, seemed like the most logical buyer. Chapter 3. Buried Treasure. The Undiscovered Riches of Alaska. Here's the thing about history. Hindsight is 20/20. What might seem like a terrible deal in one era can turn out to be a stroke of genius, or a colossal blunder, when viewed through the lens of time. The sale of Alaska is a prime example of this. In the mid-19th century, Alaska was seen as a frigid wasteland, rich in natural beauty perhaps, but not much else. The vast mineral wealth that lay beneath its surface, the gold, oil, and other resources that would later fuel American prosperity, remained undiscovered. Russian explorers and fur traders had scratched the surface of Alaska's potential, but they hadn't unearthed its true treasures. Their focus was primarily on exploiting the fur trade, which, as we've discussed, was already in decline. It wasn't until after the United States purchased Alaska that the true extent of its natural resources became apparent. The discovery of gold in the Klondike region in the late 19th century sparked a gold rush that drew thousands of prospectors to Alaska, forever changing the territory's destiny. Of course, it's impossible to say for certain whether Russia would have made these discoveries had they held on to Alaska. But the fact remains that at the time of the sale, the perceived value of Alaska was significantly lower than its actual worth. Chapter 4. A transcontinental bromance, Russia and America's budding friendship. Believe it or not, international relations aren't always solely about suspicion, rivalry, and the occasional passive-aggressive comment disguised as diplomacy. Sometimes, amidst the power struggles and geopolitical maneuvering, genuine friendships can blossom. Such was the case between Russia and the United States in the mid-19th century. The two nations, despite their differences in government and ideology, found common ground in their shared suspicion of Great Britain. Russia, still smarting from its defeat in the Crimean War, saw the United States as a potential ally against British expansionism. The Americans, for their part, were eager to assert their growing power on the world stage and counterbalance British influence in North America. The sale of Alaska was seen as a way to solidify this budding Russo-American friendship. By selling Alaska to the United States, Russia was essentially handing their former rival a strategic asset, one that could be used to check British power in the Pacific. This gesture of goodwill, it was hoped, would foster closer ties between the two nations and pave the way for future cooperation. And while the long-term impact of the Alaska purchase on Russo-American relations is debatable, there's no denying that it marked a significant moment of rapprochement between two future superpowers. Chapter 5. Checkmating Britain, Russia's strategic gambit. International relations, much like a game of chess, often involve thinking several moves ahead. Every action, every agreement is made with an eye toward securing a strategic advantage and outmaneuvering one's opponents. Russia's decision to sell Alaska to the United States was no different. In their eyes, it was a calculated move designed to bolster American power in the Pacific, and in turn, weaken the British Empire. By selling Alaska to the United States, Russia was essentially giving them a powerful pawn in the geopolitical chessboard of the Pacific. A stronger American presence in the region would serve as a counterbalance to British influence in Canada, effectively boxing in their rivals. Russia knew that the United States had ambitions of westward expansion. They had already acquired vast territories in the Louisiana Purchase and the Mexican-American War, and their hunger for land showed no signs of abating. Selling Alaska to the United States was a way for Russia to both capitalize on American ambition and steer it in a direction that aligned with their own strategic interests. They were essentially playing a game of geopolitical billiards, using the United States as a cue ball to pocket their desired outcome. Alaska, from Russian backwater to American treasure. So there you have it. The intricate tapestry of reasons behind Russia's decision to sell Alaska to the United States. It wasn't just about the money, though, that certainly played a role. It was a confluence of factors: financial woes, strategic considerations, a dash of good old-fashioned diplomacy, and perhaps a smidgen of not knowing what they had until it was gone. The sale of Alaska stands as a testament to the complexities of history, where seemingly straightforward events are often driven by a tangled web of motivations and unforeseen consequences. It's a reminder that the past is never truly past, that its echoes reverberate through time, shaping the world we live in today. From a frozen outpost of a struggling empire to a treasure trove of natural resources and a strategic linchpin in the American story, Alaska's journey from Russian territory to the 49th state is a tale as vast and captivating as the land itself.